Many young adults are experiencing a dating recession where they're struggling with significant barriers to initiating dating relationships and pursuing their desire to one day marry and have a family. Number one thing here, young adults lack confidence in their dating skills, probably because they're sitting by themselves all day.
They don't know how to even go on a date.
This isn't like riding a bicycle where you've done it once, you could just turn around and talk to a girl or a boy or whomever whenever you feel like. You got to go into the gym and take jump shots. You got to take 2,000 jump shots and start getting better at it.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining the show. We are coming at you live on multiple platforms. As you know, we stream on Thursdays. We drop the recorded show on Fridays from last week, and it's a banger. So you're going to like this one that's coming out tomorrow. And this show, we are locked and loaded with lots of juicy stuff for you guys today. So just a brief reminder, we are lawyers at STG Divorce Law in Chicago. That's STG Divorce Law. And we represent smart, successful people, and we help smart, successful people get divorced in Chicagoland. So please check us out at stglawfirm.com. And I'm the author of the best-selling divorce book, I Just Want This Done, How Smart, Successful People Get Divorced Without Losing Their Kids, Money, and Minds. Available on Amazon, Kindle, Audible, and where all great ebooks are sold. So let's get on with the show. And number one, Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird, both star athletes. Megan Rapinoe, famously of the women's soccer team, U.S. Soccer. Sue Bird, a WNBA player. Sue is 45 years old. She's a legend in the WNBA. 4 titles, 5 Olympic golds, Seattle Storm player. Megan Rapinoe, age 40, soccer player. 2 World Cups, 1 Olympic gold medal. And we're setting aside any political controversy here, folks. We're talking about their relationship. Together since 2016 after meeting at the Rio Summer Olympics. They were public in 2017 with their relationship. And Megan proposed in October 2020 following Bird's 4th WNBA title. Together for about 10 years, engaged for 6. The long engagement, ladies and gentlemen. And Rahul, what do we say about the long engagement?
Well, we say the same thing about long engagements that we say about secret weddings, destination weddings, and the same thing. We wish you the best of luck, but there's the sample size, and the outcomes are sometimes beg to differ.
And the overly gaudy, the engagement ring that's way over the top for the guy's income. If you're wealthy, that's fine, I guess. We've talked about Taylor Swift. That's like part of the show is having a big ring. But for the average person, you get that overly big ring, you're pushing your luck. It's not a good look.
I got my monthly payment for the ring coming every month as an average person.
You're trying too hard. If she's into you, she would marry you if you gave her one of those candy rings. And if she's not into you, you got to try too hard with the giant ring. That's not good. Okay. So what's the scoop on this? They never were married, ladies and gentlemen. They've been engaged for 6 years, but never married. So not only was it a long engagement, it was a no wedding engagement. So what's the deal? There was a joint statement on Instagram. And not only did they do a joint statement, folks, they did a joint post. They have a podcast because they're trying to copy us and they're trying to be cool, but they can't nearly be as cool as us. Okay, so they have this joint statement on their pod and they're like, hey, everybody, what's up? We're breaking up. And they put it on their pod. And apparently there'll be 6 more episodes of the pod that they recorded and then no more podcast. Shocker. So they tell everybody on the pod that they're splitting up and why and all that stuff. And that's it. So
it's a 3-minute message. It's a pretty long message to be there. And I wonder how uncomfortable it would have been for them to film it.
They make the announcement online, as is the current fashion. But I thought this goes a step further because they actually did a video to post their story here. Yeah, so that's the scoop. And then they do have this written post, and they talk about that they're not going to do the pod anymore in this thing. And they say, the pod will be coming to an end in light of their split. Well, I guess that seems like pretty obvious. So in any event, they're breaking up. And the scoop here, the talking point here is the legal void is the issue. The fact that there's not a marriage and what you're left with, depending on your state. In most states, there is no common law marriage. There are very few states with common law marriage. You can't just be married together X amount of years in Illinois, for example, where we are, and be considered married. There are no legal protections for you whatsoever. So it's important to know you're not going to get alimony. You're not going to get division of marital property. There is no such thing. So everybody just parts ways and keeps their stuff. So you usually have a lot of legal entanglements. Like you buy a house, somebody buys a home, They both live in it. Maybe they both chipped in money for it. You create this huge number of thorny problems that need to be untangled. Illinois abolished common law marriage in 1905, ladies and gentlemen, over 120 years ago. So it is a no-go in our state. What do they actually have legally? Whatever joint property they own that they've titled together. If they're on title on a car, if they're on title on a home, they own that together, and they're just going to have to follow normal civil procedures, what we call partition actions, if they fight over dividing that property. And those cases are a pain in the butt. I can tell you from personal experience handling some of those. It's not pretty. What should they have had? People might say a cohab agreement, cohabitation agreement. In Illinois, those aren't enforceable either, folks. So you can't get alimony even by agreement in our state and in many other states. So something that is based on a strictly like sexual or romantic relationship, that is not valid consideration in Illinois for anything. You're roommates for a long time, and you're subject to all the downsides of being roommates. The only rights you may have is for child support. If you have a child together, you have those issues related to a child, just as any unmarried parents would. But word to the wise, a cohabitation agreement in many states is unenforceable. So you need to consult with an attorney before you enter into these arrangements, and just understand there is value in being married. People slam marriage because they say, oh, it's a scam. Then you have to get divorced, and that's expensive. You're just going to pay a divorce lawyer. Well, yeah. And I understand where those arguments are coming from, but there are a lot of legal protections afforded by our marriage laws and most states' marriage and divorce laws that are looking out for people's best interest and creating a framework and a structure for people to have some rights when they enter into these relationships, so they don't have to constantly be looking over their shoulders. Now, you may argue that they're unfair, one-sided, or one person gets taken advantage of or another. Well, that's what prenups are for, to shape the landscape on those things that you don't love about the way the law works. And you can do that with respect to property rights and support. But especially for the less financially well-off spouse, it provides a very valuable platform for them to provide them some protection. And even for people that are on a level playing field together, there is structure. So they have rights to property they own together or that was purchased during the marriage. There are rights to potentially to support. And those things are valuable and they have value. So before people slam it, think about it and think about what you might be giving up by not having any relationship whatsoever, any legal relationship. You're just roommates, nothing more, nothing less. And one person walks out the door and that's it. And that could leave somebody in a really bad situation. And even the person with more money can end up in a real tough situation if they've, depending on property titling and things like that. So like, what if one person buys the property, the other person chips in a lot of money towards it, but they're not on title? Is that a gift?
Glorified rent that you're paying? What if you helped, renovate? What if you did a gut rehab on the place?
And they say, well, that was your contribution to rent, is you chipped in on the pool or whatever else and you paid every month. That money may just be gone.
And as divorce lawyers, we hear these things from people who call us and say, hey, I have this going on. What recourse do I have?
And it may be zero. So just be advised, this all sounds really great. This, not getting married seems cool until it's not cool. And unfortunately, that's how a lot of these things go. And then you're hurting and you wish you did stuff. You don't want to say, I wish I would have, whether it's an estate plan or it's a prenup and getting married, whatever. Think it through before you enter into these long-term commitments.
Mm-hmm. So here are the common law jurisdictions. So what I looked up was, what states still let you do common law. So in the states, so there's 7 states that permit the creation of new common law marriage, and there's no minimum time requirement. But the couples, this is just a generalization. We're not giving legal advice, obviously. So don't say, you heard this on the I Just Want This Done podcast, so you're going to live on based on what we're saying. Don't do that. It's terrible idea to listen to us unless you hire us as attorneys for a specific reason. So in that case, it's great to listen to us.
This is free. You get what you pay for, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. So here, the couples have legal capacity to marry, cohabit, and also present themselves in public as spouses. So those states are Colorado, where it's valid if the couples cohabitate, mutually agree that they're married, and hold themselves out to the public as married. Iowa, only recognized for the purpose of establishing support liability for dependents. Kansas requires parties to be 18 or older and consent to a present marriage. Montana, it's basically by omission. There's nothing strictly invalidated by the marriage chapter that these things aren't valid. So it's by, it's like the negative inference. Oklahoma, permitted, though legislation limits the recognition of new unions. Rhode Island, recognized through longstanding case law precedent. And Texas recognizes informal marriage if the couple agrees to be married, cohabitates, yada, yada. And District of Columbia recognizes marriage without a license if the parties intended to be married and hold themselves out to be spouses. So there's 2 limited recognition states, New Hampshire and Utah. And then some states say if you're married before a certain year, they can recognize you, but nothing after. And those states are all, I'm not going to give you the dates, but those are Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina. Funny enough, Indiana, you have a valid common law marriage if you entered into it prior to January 1st of 1958. So you got to be about 100 years old right now for that to be valid.
And then you're good otherwise. So you're set. So that's interesting. Thanks for the scoop on that. I don't have that memorized, obviously. That's great. Turning our attention to somebody who did get married, American Pie star, for those of you who remember that movie, it's been a while now, Jason Biggs and Jenny Mollen. What's the scoop on them?
Yeah, so Jason Biggs, American Pie actor. The name might not ring a bell, but if you look at his picture, you're like, oh yeah, that guy. Jenny Mollen, who's also an actress in her own regard, did in a bunch of different things, including Chicago Fire and a few other things. So they have 2 kids, an 18-year marriage. So he's 47, and they were married in May of 2008. And they separated around May of 2026, so approximately 18 years of marriage.
One footnote, I'm going to just interrupt you briefly. There was a comment I read in one of these stories that they think it may have something to do with his rapid weight loss. So if you look at this picture from 2023, I'm sharing my screen from the People article that we cite in the show notes. 2023, larger Jason. We scroll back and we have the current spring-summer 2026 New York Fashion Week. We're looking at slim and trim, looking good here.
He looks like Bad Bunny.
Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe, we talked about Ozempic before, right?
Yeah, we talked about Ozempic. I think it was the last episode, perhaps. And so maybe, people are taking Ozempic to get skinny, whatever. So who knows? So anyway, they have 2 kids, 12 and 8, Sid and Laszlo, and they've separated. They remain on great terms, and they are focused on co-parenting their 2 sons. That was their public statement, which is great. And looking online, we really haven't seen anything to the contrary besides the Ozempic comment that you saw.
By the way, don't know if he was on Ozempic, just had a dramatic weight loss of 35 or so pounds. Good on him.
Could also be a health issue. He could, God forbid, be severely sick. Who knows?
Looks pretty healthy. I think it could be natty, as the workout guys say.
Yeah, it's all natty, right? It's an all natty build.
Right.
So no additional details yet about asset division, any prenups that might be in effect, custody terms, etc. And given that it's a long-term marriage, I'm sure there's going to be a lot in there to unpack. So as always, we will get that to you as it comes out on one of our future episodes. So here's the contrast, though, with the Rapinoe case and Sue Bird and this. They're both double digits. Rapinoe is about 10 years. Here it's about 18 years. Duration-wise, neither one of them are short. A short would be like 2 years, maybe. The big distinction, besides the whole kids section, is one has a marriage certificate and one doesn't. And so it's sort of like if they were all getting divorced in Illinois, they would have, and then they don't have a prenup, for example, or even if they did and you don't really get married, a prenup's not valid. So that's another little aside there. But they have wildly different legal rights. 18-year marriage, let's say they were both married for 10 years. Forget about 18. Biggs, Mollen, there's a division of property, possible maintenance depending on what income is, all kinds of, various financial entanglements. And here, you just walk away. I can just, if you don't own anything together, I can turn around and just leave and never be seen again. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can try to go after me in court for something, but what? And it's going to be mired in litigation and he said, she said, or she said, she said, and whatever the case is. So that's the power of that one marriage certificate. So like you said earlier, you can't stress the importance of that. It's not just so, it's cool or it feels good or the government is involved, so I don't want to do it. There's actual legal reasons to do these things as well sometimes. So you have other issues here as well, right? As we talk about in other episodes and other shows where there's a giant marriage of 18 years. You have Who knows what the size of the estate is? We don't know yet, but we don't know how that'll be divided. If there's a prenup, we don't know any of these things. But what we do know is you can't prenup for custody. So we'll have to see what the custody situation is like. We'll have to see what kind of parenting time they get. We'll have to see what child support is being paid, who pays for what kids' expenses. Beyond that, I don't know who is more successful, frankly. These days people have business interests, things like that might not be overt. So we'll have to see how it shakes out. But we know it'll be big. If there's no prenup, there's 18 years of celebrity income and everything. It's just going to be divided. And, from everything we've seen online or not seen online, it seems like they're just really doing it the right way. We're not hearing crazy stories online about who did what and malice coming out, about one person or the other. So keep it amicable. They're both professionals in this case. Biggs and Mollen I'm referring to. It's important to see that they've kind of done the party line, which is we want to agree that our kids are a priority, and they're trying to do it the right way, which is always nice to see. Sometimes, like we say in our business, no news is good news. In this case, the minimal amount of news here is great news. So they're doing it the right way. Sometimes anonymity is best in these situations.
All right, cool. Well, moving on, talking about Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, if any of you are familiar with that show, you may know about Dorit and PK Kemsley, her husband. This is pretty juicy. So she's 48. PK is 57. Sorry, but he looks like a billion years old. He's not a healthy looking man, ladies and gentlemen. He was listed as a music and talent manager. It looks like he owned real estate, a lot of properties in the past, has had some ownership interests in soccer teams and things like that, and declared personal bankruptcy according to a report I read in 2012. Kind of had ups and downs in his financial background. They're married 10 years, have 2 kids, Jagger, 12 years old, and a daughter, Phoenix, sort of the famous joint statement announcing separation in May of 2024. No divorce filing yet, but here's the deal. In April 2025, she filed for divorce about a year ago, and it was the same day pictures of PK. Here's a real feather in this person's cap, okay? Former Amazing Race contestant Shanna Wall. Like, that's literally the credit in your life, is the only reason this person is relevant is she was a former Amazing Race contestant. Wow. I guess I've never been on the Amazing Race. I'm not an Amazing Race contestant, so who am I to judge, I guess? But I love how the press reports it, because you wouldn't know who the heck this person is. But it said they're an Amazing Race contestant. So apparently some photos of him smooching her surfaced. Dorit cited irreconcilable differences, requested sole custody and spousal support, kind of the standard divorce petition. If you have that kind of lawyer, where it says, we want it all, it's over the top. The case has been going for a year, but lately has been quite an escalation. So in May 2026, there's some new court filings. PK allegedly stopped paying the mortgage on the expensive Encino, California mansion, the one that's featured in the show. Didn't pay utilities, gas, electricity, internet, and that's where Dorit and the children live. PK has an email from his own side admitting that he can pay the bills, but doesn't want to. I don't know how much the judge will love that. And Dorit switched the utilities over to pay it herself to avoid service interruptions. So her team says PK is keeping her and the children in a constant state of uncertainty by design, like stressing her out. And private text messages have leaked by an attorney, a guy named Ron Richards, who apparently publicly disclosed Erica Jane's finances during a Tom Girardi case. I want to dig into this text message thing and see what this says. There's a lot of nasty allegations here. There's a story here from Reality T, whatever that is, saying that she's accusing him of being a full-blown alcoholic. So we were talking about this before the show, and you probably know, you've heard about people talk about alcoholics, and it seems like there's no middle. They're either functional or they're raging, or now full-blown, I guess, is another one.
I think full-blown is raging, right? Although raging has an element of anger towards it that full-blown doesn't have.
But nobody's really ever said the person's like a moderate alcoholic.
He is a mild-mannered alcoholic.
You're either full-blown or you're functional. There have been these heated text exchanges where they've been nasty to each other, and he basically says her legal team is claiming he's trying to starve her out. Okay. So what's interesting, though, is this is some juicy allegations here. PK's lawyers have argued that Dorit has spent over $1 million on clothes and travel instead of her bills. Even if you buy fancy stuff, that's a lot. I thought that was something else. So this isn't PK claiming he ran out of money. His own filing sounds like he's got admitting that he can pay it, but he's chose not to. That's not a good look from a judge's standpoint. By the way, Don't use self-help. When you just cut off payments, that doesn't look good to a court. If you have an issue with finance, you first try to negotiate with the other side by asking nicely about who should pay for what. Failing that, bring a motion and ask the court to allocate expenses or ask for support. And then this argument about how much she's spending could be what we call a dissipation of assets claim. That's like wasting marital assets. And you have to show in our state, you have to show that it's an expense that's not related to the marriage, that it was made after the marriage was irretrievably broken. So after there's a breakdown. And the last date for that is the divorce filing date. There can be debate before that date. Well, the marriage wasn't fully broken down yet. I wasn't, irretrievably broken. When the divorce is filed, it's broken. So if you're spending money after that, you might see dissipation claims made if it is clearly for a non-marital purpose. Now, buying ordinary buying of clothes, routine travel, ordinary meals, all that stuff, totally normal, not dissipation. It's got to be out there. You got to get, I always say, you have to get a judge excited. It's got to be something that's going to get your judge's attention.
I like to say it's like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? You have an affair, your addiction is stemming something, or you're partying.
Like I had a case with 60 grand spent on hookers, escorts.
The women of the night, as they say. They take credit cards, huh?
It's like an escort service. And the way that they masquerade it, it's like you're buying companion time, right? It's like an actor's service. He was busted. There was no way around it. So I said to the guy, we just need to front all this. Just get this. It's all going to be in the statements. They're going to find it anyway. Just admit how much it is. And then in our state, you basically pay half. If you're going to do the assets in half, 60 grand means he owed her 30 because you have a right to spend your own money, basically.
You did it, own it, give it up, and move on.
It's a lot easier. You save a lot of money in legal fees from fooling around with it. And also you take the steam out of the argument so that if you end up in a trial, they don't get to say, oh, look at these escorts. Oh, man. The issue's off the table because you already resolved it.
We already agreed to it. It's no big deal. No need to talk about it. And also don't cut off utilities and stuff if you have 2 kids at home. Like, it's just terrible. That just is going to affect you beyond just the financial portion. It's going to affect, what you want to do with the kids. Do you really care about the kids if you're cutting off the light bill at home?
Bad Medicaid stuff. You look bad to the judge. These private text statements, bank statements, stuff like that, placed in the court file, now it becomes a public record. Judges don't love it when you start doing it sort of obviously. And there are some courts that don't allow you to attach exhibits to pleadings for this reason. They don't want you just document dumping to the public because now with online records, a lot of this stuff is searchable. So it can be a pressure tactic to dump these things in the open, like extravagant spending and things like that, so that the public says, oh, she's spending $1 million on clothes. And it could be a tactical move. This alcoholism allegation could be a custody play, but I can tell you from experience, judges need to see stuff that affects the children. His drinking on the weekends away from the kids, the court doesn't care about that. If he's getting DUIs with the kids in the car, or he's passing out when he's supposed to be watching the kids, now that's a problem. It's not just enough that somebody uses some drugs or drinks when the kids aren't involved. That's really it. I would say a couple of notes. California's community property state, that stuff is split equally without an agreement otherwise. And remember the community, we've talked about this in previous shows, the community ends when the parties separate, so no new community property is created. So their income and everything stays separate after the divorce is filed at the latest. So that at least that's not going on in Illinois. Not true. As you're earning during a divorce, and these cases can go 2, 3, 4 years, especially in Cook County, you are going to split that with your soon-to-be ex, which is not fun. The one thing that I would add here from this is what they had that most people don't is they have people. They have accountants, they have lawyers, they have estate planning attorneys. They probably had estate plans. They probably did some legal arrangements related to the real estate they owned and things like that. They may have had some stuff like that and some legal advice that the average person may not have, but we don't know. So, and then the actionable item here is this. If you're together with somebody for more than a couple of years, you got to ask yourself, am I really protected here? Is this good for me? Is this going to be good for children long term? What am I risking? by staying together long-term in an unmarried relationship? And do you have beneficiary designations set up on your will? Do you have an estate plan set up even if you're unmarried? If you're going to make this a long-term commitment, yes, I'm advocating for marriage for different reasons that may not work for everyone, but there are protections built in, but that doesn't cover things necessarily when you die. So I also recommend you get yourself to a good estate planning attorney and get an estate plan put together that works for you.
If you don't have a will, for example, or a trust document, especially if you're not married, I would really recommend having a trust and not a will. But we're not giving estate planning advice. But the laws of intestacy in every state, they're going to skip, girlfriends or boyfriends or significant others. So you'll have no rights in the event of someone's demise.
So just be advised, you're taking a risk by being unmarried. If you get married, you say, well, no, I don't want to get married because divorce is ugly and I don't want to give money to the other person or whatever. Get a prenup, to have that discussion, get a prenup. And there are ways to deal with that. But the framework itself has value. So that's my 2 cents for you. So, we're not trying to build a bigger market for the law firm. There's plenty of people that need our services. I'm genuinely telling you that from a position of knowledge because I've been there and done that. And I've seen unmarried people get screwed. Opposite sex couples, same sex couples. And there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially about cohabitation agreements. A cohab agreement is not going to make you married. It is not enough. I had a detailed cohabitation agreement given to me by a potential client. It covered everything. It was signed by both of them and completely unenforceable. And the guy was heartbroken. He said, I thought I would get maintenance from this. I counted on this. The other guy made a lot more money. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this gives you nothing. And he was shocked, and basically they're just roommates. So now talking about dating trends and relationship advice, let's turn to this. What's going on out there in the wilderness with dating?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a situation where the state of our union is that there is a dating recession, according to the Wheatley Institute for Family Studies in February 10th of 2026. So essentially, what this is saying is that we're in a depressed dating economy, and many young adults are experiencing a dating recession where they're struggling with significant barriers to initiating dating relationships and pursuing their desire to one day marry and have a family. While it says that most young adults endorse relatively traditional purposes for dating and do not express an overt fear of commitment, and this is from this report, by the way, these aren't my beautiful words I'm making up on the spot, they do lack the needed skills for dating and the resilience to handle the natural ups and downs of relationship starts and stops along the journey of dating.
I have been saying this for years. My sons grew up in the social media generation, texting guys and girls on Snapchat, and they would be texting somebody and I would say, well, who are you talking to? They said, oh, there's some girl. And I said, well, why don't you go meet with, why don't you go to their house, or why don't you have them come over here? Why don't you go on a date with them? I'll give you some money, go to the movies or something. Oh, that's ridiculous. Nobody does that anymore. I dated girls in high school in kind of the old fashioned way. That was the 80s. And I do believe social media, they say video killed the radio star. Social media has killed dating.
Yes, it has.
It's also killed friendships because kids are not hanging out together. They're not spending unstructured time together. They're not sitting in somebody's bedroom playing records, or used to be you had to sit together even to play a video game. It wasn't that long ago to play a multiplayer video game. You had to get 4 controllers and sit in somebody's living room. You can't even, that's not even happening anymore. Everything is on the, and I'm not some old guy. I love technology. I am the biggest fan of tech out there, but social media has facilitated us sitting by ourselves. And we don't have to interact with people of the same sex or the opposite sex or anybody now. We hide behind screens. And not only that, we hide behind keyboards. So we're not used to sharing emotions. We're not used to talking to each other, looking somebody in the eyes. And then nobody actually is dating. I started seeing it with my sister's generation. They started hanging out in groups. Kids weren't dating. There were a group of boys and a group of girls. And they would, in these gaggles, they would hang out together. And then they would go to parties in these groups and there would be hookups, but nobody was dating anybody. Nobody was a boyfriend or girlfriend. So there was no permanence. Nobody had to get to know anybody else in any type of long-term relationship, even if it was 6 months. So nobody builds those skills. So go on, because the study's interesting. And I think this is stemming from all this. And then people's parents aren't able to teach them about dating skills or the heartbreak and getting back in the saddle. And, okay, she dumped you. Now get back up and meet another girl. There's more fish in the sea. All those crucial lessons are not being learned by people until they're like in their 20s or 30s.
And it's very tough because, number one thing here, young adults lack confidence in their dating skills. Probably because they're sitting by themselves all day.
They don't know how to even go on a date.
This is like, this isn't like riding a bicycle where you've done it once. You can just turn around and talk to a girl or a boy or whomever, whenever you feel like. You got to go into the gym and take jump shots. You got to take 2,000 jump shots and start getting better at it.
There's a reason that the book, The Game, came out when it did. And famously, The Game is about ways to get girls. Like running game is sort of this method of getting women's attention. And it's actually, when you read the book, now there's some stuff in there that people say, oh, it's some kind of like alpha male, red pill kind of stuff or black pill, whatever, that people don't like. Okay, it's misogynistic and all that. Well, set that aside. All it really is a sales pitch. What it does include that's valuable is, for a nervous guy, a system or a way to approach people if they don't know how to do it. A lot of it is, they call it like cold approach. How do you walk up to somebody you don't know? Well, there are people that are terrified about doing that. They don't have social skills. Well, the book literally talks about, honestly, pretty basic social skills.
This isn't a sort of an endorsement of like pickup artists and stuff, right? Because this is just sort of like you said, The Game by Neil Strauss, for those who want to check it out. It's sort of just a primer on how do you be confident, look confident. How do you, like Neil Strauss, for example, right? He was a guy with a receding hairline, kind of wasn't good. And then he'd say, you know what? Rather than showing my hairline made it seem like this is happening to me because I'm losing my hair, I'm going to shave my head, because then it becomes an intentional choice, which conveys confidence. So now I'm a bald guy that I chose to be bald. So that kind of stuff. How do you be confident? How do you look and dress confidently? And how do you go talk to people, whether it's in a crowded setting, it's a one-on-one thing? How to be interesting.
Women technically was the target, but it works with anything. It's really just sales. I thought it was just really interesting because any guy that's been around and dated some girls and was social, maybe we were in a fraternity or something, you kind of innately know this stuff. Or a guy that is that way. And maybe you took a page out of the guy's book. It wasn't all your style. I always say the best opening line is, "Hi, I'm Raif. What's your name?" There's no line.
So then young adults desire a dating culture aimed at forming serious relationships. You got all this like swipe culture now, all this, dating apps that sort of make it seem like you're ordering a pizza. You have the burden and the curse of choice. You have way too many choices. You're on these apps. You're like, yes, like, don't like, yes, like. There is no way in real life you were at a bar and all these 10, 20 people, women were, let's just say women, for example, in this case, were in front of you. You're not going to go by and say, nope, yes, nope. I mean, give me a break. If one of them came up to you and started talking to you, you're not going to turn around and walk away. Maybe you will, but chances are you won't. So there's too many options. And then you also get addicted to, well, I don't want to say yes now because what if someone better is over there next? I might swipe on or not. So it's all just this, very, very superficial sort of a lifestyle. They worry about money, self-confidence, and past dating experiences. Those are big barriers in the modern dating landscape. Dating resilience is low among young adults. They're not resilient, again, kind of what you were talking about. You have to build resilience. You can't just wake up out of bed one day and say, I'm going to be resilient today, You
have to break up with people several times or be dumped a couple times. By the way, I've only been dumped once, just for the record, by my first girlfriend ever. And she knows who she is. I still remember it, but you have to get back on the saddle and have some of those experiences to realize, oh, I'm fine. Other people like me. I'm going to find a girl that likes me. There are several people that would be good for you out that are running around in the world. A lot of them. You just have to, you're not going to find the perfect person. You're going to find somebody who's really good and who will adjust and you adapt to each other. You're going to find somebody who's 85% what you want. Nobody's going to be 100. You will work together to fill the gap and it'll work out. And it's like, I always say there's not one perfect person. There's several really good people out there, a lot of them in your world for you. You just need to get out there and find them. And they're running around in your neighborhood. They're not online. I'm sorry, guys. Like you're dreaming. If you think you're going to match with a girl that lives 40 miles away, you're wasting your time.
And if you have the resources for it and you want to do it, get a matchmaker. Don't do that dating app stuff. Get a matchmaker who will actually set you up on these dates so you can go meet people in real life. The dating apps, I think, are just, and I wouldn't know because I've never used one, but I'm told are just sort of just, it's like a video game. It doesn't feel like your real life.
We read about it all the time. And the problem is, too, if you're a guy, you're competing against 10,000 dudes for one girl. Okay. It might not even be real for all you know. And so if you want the best signal to noise ratio is meeting people in your circle or parallel to your circle or in real life. The restaurants by you, the bars by you, the gym by you, and don't be creepy at the gym. There's ways to approach people that aren't creepy, or join an activity like the pickleball league or the whatever it is. I'm filling the blank. The running club.
Volleyball, sand volleyball in the summer. Yeah.
It may not be that you meet the person right at that thing, but you meet the person who knows the person. It's just networking. It's just sales and networking. So you're marketing yourself, and you've got to be in the market to meet people. So we're trying to help you find love out there, ladies and gentlemen. Valuable public service. We believe a good marriage is better than a good divorce any day of the week. We want more people to be happy. It's good. So, well, what's really interesting too is it says people want to be married. They say out of the stats, 61% of the people in the survey expect to be married. The other interesting stat was the survey came up with, I saw here, it said that dating resilience point was really good. But the one thing that was really significant was this: young adults desire a dating culture aimed at forming serious relationships. So what that's saying is a very high percentage of young people do want serious relationships. They don't like hookup cultures. So they say 83% of women, 74% of men want serious relationships. They want a dating, and then a similar percentage wants to create emotional connections. And so what that means is people are hungry for that, and they're not finding it. And we have a lack of training that's a major problem here, and people living behind their keyboards that I think is really the thing to blame. So parents of teenagers, get your kids out of the house. Get your kids to group events, whatever it is, stuff where they run into other kids. Make them get out there. Make them go to the high school football game. Make them go to prom. Make them go to the informal dances at the school. They got to go do stuff to meet other kids, and get them off their phones, invite their friends over, host the group of kids over at your place, the boys and girls, and make them put their phones away. You let them mingle and get to know each other and have to actually talk to each other.
Yeah, nobody knows how to have a conversation anymore.
They act like they're from an alien planet.
And they talk to you for 2 minutes and they look down at their phone.
Then they're running around in their 20s trying to figure out why they can't find love. And it's like people don't even talk to each other anymore. So anyway, that's our plea. To wrap up the show, let's just say Rahul, where's your social handle? Where can people find you?
You can find me at Chicago Divorce on Instagram and of course on, LinkedIn.
You can find me at Rayford Palmer and find the law firm at STG Divorce Law on all the major social platforms. You can easily Google us too to find us on all the major platforms, from YouTube to all the pod platforms for the show. And our law firm, stglawfirm.com or STG Divorce Law, that works too. And we're easy to find. If you need a divorce or you're thinking about divorce in the Chicagoland area, please contact us. We would love the chance to talk with you and see if we might be a good fit for you. At least we can get you turned in the right direction, give you some valuable guidance. As always, my book, I Just Want This Done: How Smart, Successful People Get Divorced Without Losing Your Kids, Money, and Minds, is out there on Amazon, Kindle, Audible, and where all great ebooks are sold. 9,000 copies and still selling strong. A bestseller, out for several years now because it's awesome. So check it out. Get your own copy. And thanks a lot for listening. We appreciate it. Like, share, and subscribe to the show. If you like this, let us know. If you don't like it, let us know what we could do better. And we're always looking for feedback. Please rate us on your pod platform. The reviews are crucial so we know we're doing well and people find the show. The reviews are gold, and subscriptions. If you sub to the show, that helps other people find the show. So please do that. That's all we ask. The show's free. We're just asking you to click a couple of things on your phone, and we're good. So thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great weekend and a great week. Take care.